Okay. It is 2 minutes after 10, so I think we should get rolling.
Let's do it.
All right. I want to thank everybody for jumping on our latest Dynamite Agents webinar. If anybody is interested in geofarming, Jonathan is the ultimate king at geofarming, and he's going to share all his secrets with us. But I want to talk a little bit about how John and I, how our relationship has evolved over the past 5 years, where John and I partnered at EXP about, I guess it was almost 5 years ago now.
Yeah, was over 5 years, Ken.
Yeah. And since that time, the coolest thing that's happened in our relationship is how much we share now. Like, we share everything. I can call John and say, hey, I'm looking at doing this. Can you send me over your Geo Farm plan? And he'll send it to me. And if he calls me up and says, hey, I want to do some referral stuff, what have you got? I'll send it over to him. Like, the collaboration has been amazing. So we've worked a ton together over the past 5 years, and we share a lot of stuff. He is one of the best guys at just not only real estate, but just the best guys to be around. Super inspiring, always great to learn from, always there whenever you need him, like super supportive. He's just been a huge asset. It's a great guy to know. And again, the absolute king at geofarming. If you want to learn about geofarming, he has the best plan I have ever seen when it comes to geofarming. And he's put it all together in some slides for us today, which is great. So we're going to go through that. But John, you want to start by just talking about a little bit about you for people that don't know you well, where you started, where you came from, talk a little bit about your background, and then how you got to where you are today, because you run a really great business.
Oh, thanks, Ken. And thanks so much for, man, I'm blushing here as you're saying all that nice stuff. So I appreciate that. Even if just half of it was true, then that would be great. But I'm excited to be here. And yeah, just a quick little bit about me. So born and raised Calgary kid. I grew up on a farm just a few minutes west of Calgary. Wasn't ever much of an academic type of kid. Still not. Still think of myself a little bit as a kid anyways. And I went into emergency services right out of high school. Always wanted to be a firefighter. So that's what I did. I got hired on with the city of Calgary at a very young age, at 19 years old. And then did that for about 13 years or so. And after that 13-year time period, a decision had to be made as to whether I could continue on with the firefighter dream, which I absolutely loved that job, still do, or take this business a little bit more seriously and look at it more as a business, as opposed to kind of a part-time side hustle, which it was sort of at that time. So here we are. Popowich and Company officially was sort of like a team with my very first hire in 2016, who is Donna Puller, who's on our team. She's still on our team today, now for over, I think, 11 years now. And so we're just a very small boutique team. We've got 4 full-time agents, 1 agent who is maybe a little bit more half-time, if you will. And then we have 3 administrators that are supporting us as well. So a director of operations, a listing coordinator, and a transaction coordinator. And that's sort of our team. So we do, last year we were, I think we were around 185 million in total sales volume closed. And it was actually coincidentally about 185 transactions as well. So, I mean, we could do the math about an average price point of about $1 million. And I've always been a fan of kind of less is more. If you can do fewer transactions, but a higher price point, it's just a whole lot easier on everybody. So, yeah. And then Ken, as you know, like, balance is very important for both of us, like for you and for me and for everyone that we kind of try to align with. So I work very, very few evenings, like pretty much none. Very rarely are you going to see me working on a weekend. And then I take most of the summers off as well. Just our family loves to spend time out at the cabin and on the boat and all that sort of thing. So it's yeah, it's a great business. This has been it's been very fulfilling. And I think that that's the cool thing about this business is you can build it in a way that serves you and your family, and you can still serve your clients to a very high level. And that's what I think it's all about. So yeah.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that vision that you had for the business. And then let's talk about why you decided that, say, geofarming was going to be the anchor for what you did, and then sort of how you decided, what neighborhoods you were going to do. And if you're going to dive into that in your slides, that's great. But when was it in the beginning? When was it that it hit you that, I really want to do it this way? This is going to be the anchor for my business.
I think that there were a couple things. The first thing is that everybody likes working close to home, and for me that was a big part of it. Was we had built and flipped and moved around a whole lot in West Calgary, and so I naturally wanted to work in West Calgary instead of driving all the way across. You think about the amount of dead time that you have as you're driving all over the place in this business. And we still do, don't get me wrong. Like, well, I always tell people, we'll still take business, anywhere Carstairs to High River, as long as the business makes sense. But in terms of actually trying to generate inbound leads, it's just too wide a net. If you're just casting that huge net across the entire city of nearly 2 million people, it's really difficult to see that return on investment. And the way to really be able to sort of penetrate a market, so to speak, is through geofarming. And so that's kind of what led me there. That was one of the first things. The other thing was I was coaching at the time with a group, and I noticed the common denominator for anybody that went. It was a very small, kind of tight-knit group. And truthfully, like, I owe a lot to Sam Correa, because I was creeping on him as a newer guy in the industry. I'm like, this guy's the face of real estate. Like, he's got a billboard. He's legit. And I think pretty much everybody on this call has seen that billboard. And so I started creeping on him a little bit to be like, where did this guy get so good? Like, I just loved his marketing and thought it was really cool. So I found that he was coaching with a group called Goodfellow Coaching and Consulting. And I applied to be part of that whole group back around the time I left the fire department. And they actually said, no, sorry, we're working with Sam already. And you got to meet this threshold of income and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't meet any of that criteria. So they, in the end, I'm like, what if I can make that criteria within a year? Because I think I can do it. They're like, well, we need to check with Sam, and if he's okay with it, then you can join. So I was not expecting him to say, yes, that's okay. But Sam's a very sharing and, good guy. And he's like, yeah, Popowich, never even heard of the guy. Sure, bring him in. So at that point I started coaching. And then when I went to my first, whatever it was, like retreat or conference or whatever, the one common denominator that every one of those super high performers had was pretty much all of them had a geo farm. So every single one, it didn't matter where it was, but that was kind of lunch conversation was like, so where do you work? I work in this state, this city, and then it's this little micro market within the city. And I found that very interesting that everybody they knew their numbers. Like, they knew exactly how many houses were in their market. And I'm like, I need to get there. And so that's when I started really working on the geo farm.
Perfect. Okay, well, why don't we dive into what you've prepared, and why don't you work through your system, and let's pull the curtain back. Let's just get right into it and
Sure.
Share with everybody how you do it, what you look for, and then how you've been able to build such a big business. Because like 185 million in volume, that is not a small business by any stretch.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun for sure. I don't know what happens when I press like play from start. I lose you guys, so maybe just like yell.
I'll yell at you if I'm going to jump in. I'll jump in and say, hey, just quick question. All right.
Okay. Sounds good. Let me just try this here. Okay. So I think this. Are you seeing like the full?
Yep.
There we go. Okay, right on. We'll try
100%.
that. Okay. So, yeah, I call it the unsexy geo farm blueprint, because guys, at the end of the day, I think in this industry, realtors are just hardwired to find the easy button. And I love that. Like, I think that's actually a really good quality, because if there's an easier way of doing something, let's just do that. And I think that that's also why all of the other vendors out there in the business are so incredibly successful in selling to realtors, because we've all been there, right? We're like, oh, how much is that? Oh, it does that for us. Oh, yeah, let's sign up. It'll
free up this many hours. Let's do that.
Totally, right? Yeah. So I call it unsexy because, guys, at the end of the day, it's just one of those things that you do have to do the work. So in this, just to kind of give you a little bit of context, our geo farm, if I were to define it, we sort of have like one larger umbrella geo farm, which would be basically West Calgary. So think of anything that would be west of Sarcee Trail. So we call that T3H postal code if you're in the city of Calgary, and then T3Z postal code would be as soon as you get into Rocky View County, and we're more looking at Springbank at that point. So within the T3Z postal code, the Springbank postal code, our team is involved in about 34% of the transactions, and it bounces between about 31 to 35% depending on the year. Total career sales volume, it's always uncomfortable because I feel a little boastful in saying it, and not trying to do that. But we are sitting at about 2 billion in total volume in the time that I've been in the business. Started, as I said, in 2009, just as a very part-timer kind of guy. And then in terms of the stats, that's where I geek out a little bit, because everybody's like number one at something or whatever in this business. But there actually are different subscription softwares out there where you can see who's doing what deal, what transactions, all that kind of stuff. And so consistently year over year, over the last 7 years anyways, we've been in the top 10 for total sales volume. So part of the reason why I go back to geofarming is right now, everyone's going on the internet leads, right? Back to the easy button. So instead of just blowing money on all of these leads that, frankly, the people don't even want to talk to you, generally has been my experience. I know other people can do it at a really high level, which is awesome. I cannot, my team cannot. So we want to talk to people that want to talk to us, as opposed to chasing people down and saying, hey, I just saw that you were looking at houses, and then kind of going through and falling on our face. So that's essentially what it came down to, was just really showing up hard in the same community over and over and over again. So this is just a little bit of a kind of breakdown as to what a geofarm is compared to what it is not. So what it is we're looking at a very defined geographic area. So it could be a postal code. It could be a single street. Like my very first little geo farm was actually literally one street, Aspen Hills Way. That was the street that I started, where it all kind of started rippling from there. It's a repeatable system of touch points. So you don't want to reinvent the wheel all the time. You want to be able to just sort of have a system in place, and then you just have somebody managing that system, as opposed to constantly reinventing the system. And then really what I look at my geo farm to be is that it's an asset. It's an asset to the business, and it continues to compound as time goes on. It gets cheaper to run a geo farm, and you continue to see a nice return.
And that's an interesting point, is that over time that it does compound and it becomes cheaper to run over time. Because most people think that a geofarm is just this heavy investment every single month. And it just takes so long to build. But that's interesting to hear that it compounds over time.
It totally does. And I think that once you get to that point where you have an established geofarm, you know the seasonality of that market. So we, like, for example, in that T3H, T3Z postal code, like we hit things hard December, January, February, March, April, May. And then we take our foot off the gas in June, July, August, because nobody's looking. All of the moves have already been, the deals have been written for the year. We know that the market's not going to pick up again generally until September. And then that's when we kind of pick things back up again, is in September. So yeah, that's kind of the seasonality of our business. And then you can kind of take your foot off the gas at certain points once you understand the behavior of your geo farm. So yeah,
cool. Good stuff.
So 3 phases, I kind of say, on realistically, you're looking 12 months. Like you need to have a 12-month commitment to really be able to know that you are, that you've established that geo farm if you're doing it properly. You'll start seeing some results after about 12 weeks, but generally speaking, it's about a year commitment if you're doing everything properly. And there's a lot of trust in the process that it's actually going to work. So now we're going to talk about like the 3 different things that we need to know, the 3 numbers, then how to actually launch, and then how to sort of maintain. So the 3 things that we're looking at here, the 3 numbers, the first one is going to be the opportunity. So that means like how many houses are available? What are we going to be able to actually sell? And this is, guys, the beauty is we can get these stats from a number of different sources, right? Whether it's City of Calgary community profiles, whether it's like census data that's maybe a little bit outdated, whether it's Canada Post, they'll tell you exactly how many houses, how many apartments, how many businesses may fall within that geo farm that you're kind of looking at. Then you want to know what's the turnover rate. So the turnover rate is a very, very important number. And I've seen it calculated a few different ways. And really there should only be one kind of calculation for turnover. But essentially that just means like how many transactions are there in that area per year. So what we want to look for is we want to look at total number of listings that have sold. So not just number of listings, but number of listings that have sold divided by the total number of homes. And then multiply that by 100, and that's your percentage rate. So ideally, the bigger the better, right? If you have a higher turnover rate, then that's good. There's more transactions. Sometimes in newer communities, like where there's still just a ton of new construction, those stats can be a little bit artificial, I guess, because there's so much builder inventory. Properties are flipping over quite a bit. So I would still want to go something that's pretty much built out before trying to establish that geo farm. But those newer communities, there's a huge opportunity to become the area expert, so to speak, with those ones, just given their turnover rate. And then, of course, you also want to know what the concentration is. And by that, I mean, like, who's got market share? And this is where, there's a few different ways to do it. You can either manually do it, which is just simply pull up all of the deals that were done. You're looking mostly at listing agents. You don't care about the purchasing side. You're looking more at listing agents, and you're seeing like which listing agent or listing team has dominant market share. And by that, you're trying to see, is there any kind of standout where somebody has like 10%, 15% market share? If it's like 2 to 3%, then there's probably a bunch of agents that have 2 or 3%, and that's definitely a good opportunity for establishing a geo farm.
And I think that a lot of people don't realize that the numbers are like that. It's, you see all the bus benches and you hear of all the people that are owning neighborhoods like you, for instance. 30% is a really high number for somebody in a geo farm. Typical geo farms are not that. They're under 20%. And if you think about the math on that, there's 80% of that market still available if the neighborhood expert has less than 20%. That's a lot of business still left out there.
Totally. And the other thing that I find very, I was going to say comical, but maybe a better word is interesting. I find it very interesting that when we just sort of think as realtors, like, oh, so-and-so, that's their turf. Like that's where they work. And so-and-so, oh yeah, that's where they work. And then when you actually pull their numbers, it's like, there's a lot of optics there. They may kind of communicate that they are the neighborhood expert, but when it actually comes to boots hitting the ground and how many deals are being done, sometimes the geo farm is like there's a bit of a sleeper there that nobody would ever know that is the group that's doing all of the deals in that area. So be prepared to face a little bit of opposition from people that may think that they have that geo farm. The bus benches you're driving past, you're gonna feel it. I know I sure did. So. Yeah.
Well, and it's also a good point too for people that are afraid of maybe even starting a geo farm because they go into a neighborhood and they go, oh, so-and-so already owns it. I can't do that. Well, you know what? Do the research first. Crunch your numbers. Make sure you've got the right data before you make that yes or no decision. Just because somebody has all the bus benches in a neighborhood does not mean they own the neighborhood.
Totally. Yeah. It means that they are Far West Outdoors' favorite customer.
That's right. They're spending a lot of money. They may not be making it.
Yeah, totally. You bet. So when we're talking about like what is a good percentage, these are the good percentages. And for anybody on the call, like, feel free to take notes or screenshots or whatever. But also, I've got a couple of other resources that I can share afterwards, including a cool little whizzy calculator that you can put in the numbers like number of properties and average price point and average commission and all that stuff, and it'll tell you like, yes, this is a good geo farm, or no, this is not a good geo farm. So yeah, but this is kind of what we're looking at. You essentially want to avoid these kind of numbers. This is like, could be a decent geo farm. This is a strong geo farm, and this would be like elite. Like there's tons of opportunity in that. And you tend to find that as you're looking at communities that carry some kind of a niche, then niche. What do you say?
Niche. I say niche.
I say niche. Yeah, I go with
Yeah.
niche too. I heard somebody say niche, and then I'm like, oh man, I've
Am
been
I
saying
saying
this
it wrong?
wrong. I've been saying this wrong my whole life. Yeah. So niche, yeah, like if you can find a niche community, so that could be like like a Heritage Point, or it could be a Hawks Landing, or it could be on the lake somewhere. Like there's all sorts of different niches out there, and for us, it's acreages, right? Like we just know acreages in out and backwards, and a big part of our business is continuing to build on that, which is actually one of the pillars within our Geo Farm. So yeah, all right. So one of the other things, once you've kind of established what you think, the numbers are looking good, you're like, yeah, I think that this is going to be a really interesting Geo Farm. Now it's a matter of being able to kind of walk the walk. You're not just talking the talk. Well, but that's part of it too, is that you are talking the talk. So that means that like every single new development that's going on, any kind of big development permit that's been pulled, what's going on. They started moving dirt over there. What's going on over there. What are the schools? So when you walk into that listing presentation, and I always encourage my team to do that as well, even if it's an area that we have never even sold a house, I say, make sure that you know what those schools are prior to going into that listing appointment, so that when you walk into that listing appointment, you can say, yeah, you know what, this is fantastic. Like a big driver for people moving into this neighborhood is that it's just walking distance to Ronald McDonald right around the corner, So it's, or whatever, obviously Ronald McDonald, that'd be a horrible school. But it's important to know how these people live and what their normal routine looks like, because as you're having those conversations, it's going to build rapport, it's going to resonate with them, and they're going to be like, yeah, man, this guy knows what the elementary school's name is, or whatever the thing is that you're talking about, the business, all that type of thing. So yeah, I spend, even today, like I grew up on a farm in Springbank. I've lived there my whole life, well, pretty much. And I still will go driving around the neighborhood at least once a week. Like if I have 5 minutes to kill before an appointment, I'm still going to go driving around Springbank and just checking out what's going on. Who's doing a renovation? Who's, got a hockey rink up? Who's got a coming soon sign up, and why didn't I get it? All of that kind of stuff. Like I almost obsessive about the neighborhood. I need to know everything that's going on, because as soon as you jump into that conversation in that listing appointment, they may mention a family by name, and you'd be like, oh yeah, the one down there on Solis Ridge. Yeah, that's right. And again, those are all those little reinforcing points that are going to get you that much closer to getting the listing contract signed. Another great thing is, like I go for a lot of runs. So I'll just run around a neighborhood. Like West Springs is changing every minute, it seems. And so like going for walks or runs or bike rides or whatever in a new area that's being built out in your Geo Farm, it's also a really important and great way of kind of naturally taking in some more of that information. All right. So you've got it. You got the math makes sense. You're starting to build up a little bit of experience, and don't be paralyzed in launching your Geo Farm if you feel like you don't know everything about the community. It's more just having the mindset of like, if you're going to do this, you need to make sure that you're doing this and you're committed to really learning it inside out and backwards. But I like to call the launch period about a 90-day launch. So we're talking 12 weeks of hitting it really, really hard. Super calculated. Use Claude or ChatGPT or Grok or whoever your AI platform is to help you come up with a bit of a business plan, and you're going to launch this thing. And this is kind of what it looks like. So concurrency beats budget is the headline. And of course, what that means is that we have multiple things that are working at once. So like the very first slide said, Geo Farm is not just a single, flyer dump. And we've all done that too. We're like, $2,000, 5,000 flyers. Let's get those things in there. And I'm just going to wait by the phone and collect listings. Does not work like that. So that's okay if it's part of a bigger plan and you have other things that are going on. But what we need to be expecting is that to really effectively launch a Geo Farm, you should be looking at about $3 to $5 per house per month. That seems like a big number, and it is a big number, but that's the number that you will need to do it properly, where you're not actually just going to be wasting a bunch of money, in my opinion. So, and there's other ways that you can like have some cost control, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But you just want to make sure that you are getting your face absolutely everywhere, and you're also delivering value at the same time. Because sometimes if it's just your face, it's annoying. But if it's face coupled with value, that's where people are going to be like, huh, this person's a little bit different. We should give them a call. So this is kind of what I would suggest as a bit of a template, tweaking a little bit depending on the area and once you sort of understand what it looks like. So in that foundational period, week 1, week 2, this is kind of like the big announcement, the big like, who's this new person? Where did they come from? And I think we've all seen that too, where all of a sudden, like Ted Greenoff, that guy, he's like a bus bench wizard. I don't know if you remember some of his benches, Ken. Do you remember the one where he was like Superman and like
he switches them up. He used to switch them up all the time.
Totally. Yeah. So like that's the kind of thing where you want to have like some kind of an impact where it's like, oh, cool. There's some new advertising that's going on. So when they're driving home and they've seen those new bus benches, and then they open up the mailbox and they're like, oh, weird. I just saw that guy's bus bench, I think. And now here's a flyer that looks something like this, maybe. And then later on, they're going to the gym and they're like, oh, weird. There's another one of those bus benches. Or there's, you know, an event that's being sponsored by that person. Mail is a pillar in our Geo Farm strategy. And there's a lot that we can talk about for anybody who's like super interested in the whole mailing aspect. You can waste just an obscene amount of money with Canada Post. And there's a lot of really good marketing companies that are out there that will help you with this. We try to do as much of it ourselves as we can. So we design a brochure, we send it out to a printer. The printer then will actually like print it. They will bundle it. They will take it to Canada Post for us, but we pay Canada Post directly as opposed to all of these little up costs that happen along the way. So yeah, mail is going to be really important. I like to do a newsletter that is owned by us. And the reason why, so this is an 11 by 17 right here. 11 by 17 folded. So it's like basically an 8.5 by 11 that is not folded when it goes into the mailbox. If it's folded, it gets tossed. Nobody looks at it. If it lays flat, you do have to pay an oversized fee. I think it's like an extra 3 cents per house, but then it goes in like this. And then people are like, oh, it's a community magazine. I'm going to read this. It's not just a realtor. It's a community magazine. So as an example, our Geo Farms, we've got like, you know, here's a year in review. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. And it's a local market perspective. Here's another one that we sent out, and it says like Springbank. It's like, oh, I live in Springbank. I'm going to read this. Or this one, West Calgary. So that's what we're trying to achieve. We don't want to just have like a big realtor face, because then it's garbage. But if there's some value in it, then we're going to make it past the blue bin. And that is my whole strategy when it comes to mail. You got to make it past the blue bin. If you can make it onto the kitchen counter, mission accomplished. That's all I want. So there's a number of different things that you can do there. So you're mailing every single week for that 12 weeks. And I would also suggest that at the same time, you're doing something a little bit different with the mail. So yes, you're going to have like the regular stats. You're going to have the community going ons. You're going to have something that just sort of suggests that you are the authority in that particular neighborhood. Put in the number of houses it sold, put in the average price points, put in all that kind of stuff without giving away everything and making sure that we're still complying with all of our rules. Because a lot of times people be like, hey, I saw that you listed that house just sold in that area. That's my neighbor's house. Can you tell me a little bit more? Like, how long did that one take to sell? So we get calls all the time on other properties which have transacted just because people want to know a little bit more about it. So, and I'm happy to provide some examples of some of our newsletters. One of the other things that I like to do is notepads as one of the mailers. when you're launching a Geo Farm. They're cheap. Don't get sucked into saying, oh, how much is the 50 pager compared to the 30 pager compared to the 20 pager. Do the 20 pager. It's still not going to get thrown away. And that's, again, the goal, right? Stay out of the blue bin. So a 20 pager is not going to get thrown away. Neither is a 25 pager or a 30 pager. So save some money. The other thing that you can do that's kind of cool is you can do what's called die cuts. They're a little bit more expensive. But one year we did when we were launching a new Geo Farm, we did it right over that spring market kind of ramp up. And so Valentine's was one of the days. So we actually mailed like 19,000 Valentines to people. And it was a heart. And it said, they just had a little poem, roses are red, violets are blue. We'll help you find that house with a view. And then flip it over, and then it had some stuff about us. Oh, and then love Popowich and Company. And that Valentine, that was on like week 4. And that ended up getting me like 3 listing appointments just from that one little Valentine. So just doing something a little bit creative that isn't a square flyer is definitely a worthwhile investment. So yeah, maybe now, Ken, because I know you and I both have wasted a ton of money. What do you think about these great news things?
The great news ones, I used to do them actually.
Yeah.
I think because, have you noticed how thin those things are getting?
Yes.
Super thin. Like there's nothing left in them. And I just really, I dabbled in GeoFarm years and years and years ago. Did not do it to the level that you do it. Had I have known you back then, I probably would have ramped it up harder. But I didn't get a ton out of those. But I still think that when we're talking about omnipresence in a neighborhood, you made a great point about, when you look at this bench installed ads go live, all that kind of stuff, and people are driving to the gym and like, oh, I just saw that bus bench. When things change in a neighborhood is when people notice it. So you've got to be hitting people from multiple angles. It's just like any pillar of lead generation in real estate. You've got to hit people from multiple angles. And I just love that piece.
Totally.
That is still, I still think that is a piece that if you wanted to implement it, you could. I just don't think you can hang your hat on it. I think it's got to be, I think you really do need to do things more in-house and more specialized.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you nailed it. Like it's again, just trying to get inside the heads of your audience to figure out where they are and also understanding like who is it that you want to work with too, right? Like if you hate kids, then you probably don't want to be advertising in like hockey arenas because you're going to be getting like you're getting young families. You're getting some old timers, but they're not there to look at ads, right?
No.
When you have a captive audience of moms and dads that are watching their kids and then they're staring at a wall of billboards, that's a great place to just have a subtle presence that's really, really cheap when you look at your cost per impression. And so these ones, like, again, not to try to put these guys out of business, but like great news and all of those community mailers. Like admittedly, I go in one called the Park Patter. It's ridiculously expensive. It's $600 every time we do an ad in there. It's yielded us like no business. The only reason why we do it is just because like it's just been the magazine in that area for absolutely ever. And we're kind of supporting the community a little bit that way. But outside of that, like for the cost of one of these ads, you can put together like your own V-fold and then you have, complete control. And I'm not competing with 6 other realtors like are in this magazine right here. So there's like absolutely nothing unique about advertising with a bunch of other competitors. That's why you need to do your own thing. So I would encourage people to stop wasting their money on community mailers. Yeah.
100%.
Okay. This is kind of a bit of a breakdown as to where I would think the money should go. So mail, like I said, that's a spine. Digital is the multiplier for sure. There's lots of cool ways that you can be digital, get in front of people, targeted ads and so on. Benches, the only thing that I would say about bus benches is like, don't go nuts with them. You don't need 10 benches. You don't need 5 benches. Like I think I have 5 benches, maybe 4 benches. That's it. but we move them around. So we choose areas that make sense. You know, if you get that sweet spot on 85th Street or that sweet spot that's, you know, it's got to be a road that's busy, but not too busy. If it's 17th Avenue, I find it too busy. People are like on their way to work and that's what they're thinking about. But if it's in like stuck at the traffic light forever and it's a pedestrian crosswalk, that's a good spot to have a bench. Out front of the school, that would be a good bench. So I would say less is more with the benches as long as they're in like very strategic places.
And too many people count on benches too to just drive that business, and a lot of people think that geofarming is owning bus benches, but really that's only one piece of the puzzle. Bus benches are not going to get you business unless you support it with all of this other stuff. You know, and because bus benches, just think about how you feel when you drive by bus benches. They're white noise after a little while. They really are. You don't even notice them unless they change. It's when they change that you notice them.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And it's funny. We like canceled our bus bench contract during COVID. And, you know, the whole world was falling apart, of course. And man, COVID, hey. And so we got rid of that. And a year later, I still didn't even have any bus benches. And it was a year later and somebody's like, oh yeah, I just drove past one of your benches the other day. And I'm like, oh man, yeah.
You had none.
Yeah, exactly. So they stay in people's mind for a long time too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you actually go back? I want to talk about events too.
Mm-hmm. Events are great because it's not so much the event that is the big return on investment. It's the marketing of the event, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Hype.
We do a like one of our community events that we'll do every year is an acreage buying seminar. We've been doing that one for a long time, I think 12 years now. And it's like a 2-hour event. And we just go up there and we just talk about like the acreageisms. And we have it at one of the, you know, community halls, bring in some food. We usually have it sponsored, so it doesn't even cost anything, truthfully. And then we'll get one of those bold signs because those are, again, a different sign people notice. But then we advertise the snot out of that event online and in the newsletter. And again, it's one of those things that just reinforces like, these guys are doing an acreage buying seminar? An acreage buying seminar? They must know something about acreages. And so it's a really, really great way to sort of, again, reinforce our presence in that area and kind of be a bit of an authority in that space. And it truthfully does generate a lot of business. Like we do pick up a ton of buyers as a result of it. But that would be like a community event. Another one that we're doing here on May 30th is a shredding event. So we get a shredding truck, costs $900 for maybe 4 hours. I think they can accommodate 300 boxes, like bankers boxes of stuff. We advertise that one like crazy, like community shredding event. We send it to our database first. I'm a big database marketing guy, just like you can, except you do it way better than I do. And it's a great way to just reach out to old clients, past clients, connect with them. We get donuts from Glamorgan Bakery or some local shop. And then people come, grab a coffee, grab a donut, drop off their old taxes, and then off they go. And it's cheap. It's a great way to connect with people. And it's also an opportunity to say to people in your geo farm, man, we're giving out property evaluations if you want. We just need to fill out this information on your property prior to the event, and we'll have an evaluation ready for you the day of. So it's a great way to meet people. And it's amazing how years after doing an event, people are like, oh yeah, I picked up a pumpkin from you at Co-op there. And I'm like, man, we haven't done that event in 5 years. But they still remember the pumpkin and we got the listing. So,
and you've got your whole team out. You're decked out in logoed gear. I mean, you've got a closet full of great logoed gear too. So your whole team is there at all of these events, right? And you guys are all doing the same system.
Yeah, you betcha. Yeah, everyone's kind of running with the same types of scripts and having the same conversations. And we're just all like try to be very real people. In that it's not, we don't want it to be intimidating. We don't I don't think anybody on my team like owns a suit or fancy clothes. I shouldn't put them down. They probably do. I definitely don't, but they do. But we just we show up to a listing appointment in jeans and just try to be as down to earth as possible, because that's, I think, what people relate with, you know? So that's kind of our approach that way. Cool. Yeah. Same at events.
Awesome. So we're in the launch, and then, so now where are we going from here?
Just kind of the take home here would be like, make sure in the launch, especially, that you're really, really conscientious of what your spend is going to be, because it's pretty easy to take something to a printer and say, how much? And they're going to say this much. And you're going to be like, that seems very fair. Let's do it. But it's prudent to make sure, like, you owe it to yourself and to your business to say, thanks so much. I'm going to get another price. I'll be right back to you. How much over here? Because the margins, especially in printing, is unbelievable. Like, you can see, like, when we do a like a typical campaign, we're mailing about 24,000 homes. So if we're mailing 24,000 homes and you have, you know, a difference of 5 cents per piece, I'm no mathematician, but that's a big number. Yeah. So same thing goes for like that Canada Post precision targeting. I know there's people from all sorts of different brokerages here, but like, for example, Remax has a mail rate with Canada Post where you can use like a Remax code, as long as the Remax logo is on the thing, and your mail can drop down to like 13 cents or 13.5 cents per piece. For example, I'm making that number up, but that's probably close to what it is compared to retail, which a lot of times the printers are going to just charge retail pricing, and then they may scoop that balance. So you need to be aware of that. And so maybe retail pricing is 16 cents or 17 cents. So you just want to be aware of what that is. I know our brokerage has, they have a preferred rate. Our printer that we work with, he's like, dude, I don't know how you guys got this, but you're cheaper than A&W. Like, A&W, who mails everybody, has to pay more on the unaddressed ad mail than our brokerage, which is kind of cool. So yeah, you bet. Okay, so you've done your launch. Now it's time to dominate. Any questions from anybody? Like, how do you do this, Ken? Do you normally open it up to questions?
Yeah, we'll do questions at the end here. I mean, we got about 18 minutes left here, 17, 18 minutes left. So we'll get through your whole presentation. And then if everybody can save their comments till the end, what we'll do is we'll just throw them in the chat, and then we'll answer them one by one. Right. We'll just keep going until we answer everybody's questions.
Perfect. Right on. Yeah. So, dominate. That's kind of the next stage, right? Like, now things are moving, and now we need to actually kind of, sorry, my slide is not working here. We need to maintain this sucker and continue to build it. So, as you can see, now we can start seeing that ROI is going to flip positive. So, like I said, it is a big trust thing as you're launching a Geo Farm. And I can't tell you how many times an agent has said to me, like, oh man, we've been doing this now for a month. We haven't even had a phone call. We're just so frustrated. We're going to stop this thing. I said, guys, don't do that. Like, you have to make sure that you continue to invest and you continue to put in the work. It's like going to the gym 3 times and being like, man, I'm still a mess. What's going on? Right? You gotta go more than 3 times. All right. I would say that if you can get to that, like, 3 to 5 listings as a direct impact from the Geo Farm, and you know it. It's not like it also happens to be a referral or whatever, but like, they literally called off of the unique phone number that you put onto your mailer, or something, a specific event that was only marketed in one of your flyers or whatever it is, then that's when you know that it's actually working. And then by the time that you're in that kind of like 6 to 10 plus listings per year, then you know that you're truly dominating. And it gets kind of exciting to start calculating that return on investment. For us, like, I'll share very openly that our return on investment is about 12x when it's what we're spending in our Geo Farm compared to what we're actually pulling out of it. So
that's amazing. Yeah. It's a really good return, and just awesome stuff. Great stuff.
Totally. Kind of a summary here again. So we've talked before, Ken, on these things about like the 36 touch point or the 50 touch
Mhm.
point or whatever for people that are actually in your database. And there's a lot of as you're working in an area, of course, a lot of the clients that you have sold houses to, it's great passive reinforcing marketing where they're like, hey, I just bought a house with these guys, and then here's their flyer. Oh yeah, there's our realtor. Oh, now they're inviting us to something. And then people like to talk about that kind of stuff too. So you can see a lot of multiple touches through your like database marketing and your geofarm marketing at the same time, which is nice. Yeah.
So just a quick question. A couple of slides ago, you had 1, 2, 3 years. Most people think that, I think the traditional thinking is you've got to commit at least a year, but you would say commit 3 years to geofarming. If you're going to do this, commit 3 years. Would that be safe to say?
Well, I would say commit 1 year to make some money. But you're not going to be, you may be doubling your money, which I mean, it's funny that we would even be scoffing at that. But yeah, you're going to sell some houses in your first year. You definitely want to make sure that you're not taking a loss. And you're going to see that there is some positive business, but by the time that you really start seeing that return escalating, it's going to be year 3 where you're like, holy, I'm so glad I started doing this. Yeah.
And a lot of it is now inbound, correct? You're not picking up the phone, making dials every day. It's a lot of inbound at that point.
Totally. I wouldn't even know where to start with a cold call. Never done that before. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Okay. 5 mistakes of geofarms. Because when I have spoken with people about geofarms, they're like, oh, I want to do this area. Why? Oh, I live there. Cool. How many houses are there? How many people sell their houses there? All that kind of stuff, right? So again, rely on the math, and then you can start, you can determine whether or not it's something that makes sense. Some people don't mail enough. And so like mailing weekly, do you want to continue that? No, you're only mailing weekly for that first 12-week launch. And then after that, you're going to go to a monthly mailer. But you need to make sure that you continue with at least a monthly mailer for that first year. After, like in year 2, year 3, that's when you can start being a little bit more selective and be like, okay, I'm not going to mail from June till September. But yeah, every week for the launch, every month after that. Spreading a small budget over a big farm, that's the other thing. You sometimes get, the whole like eyes are bigger than your stomach thing. You're like, oh man, 5,000 homes in this community, and I'm gonna get after it. I wouldn't advise doing something like that unless you have mega bucks behind you. I would start small, like 500 homes. Perfect, manageable, trackable. Really great way to sort of get into a geofarm is to pick an area of a community and just, hyper focus on that area. You can door knock it. You can do an event. You can give everybody a pumpkin, which is $1, hang a candy cane on everybody's door at Christmas. Like that's a very manageable size geofarm. We develop so much, we put so much money into like our fancy logos and all this marketing stuff. And guys, at the end of the day, nobody cares. Like nobody cares about your logo, the house with the mountain and roof line, whatever kind of logo you got. It's a human business and people want to see you. And it's kind of like what that AI conference thing that we went to. And it's like, people that are putting AI in between the consumer and themselves are going to be a loser. But the people that are putting AI behind them and pushing you closer to your consumer, that is going to be somebody who's going to be a winner. So yeah, show your photo, show that you're human. And the other thing is just quitting too soon. Like we talked about, you get to that month 9, I got 1 listing or I haven't got anything and I just got to wrap it up. Don't give up. Just keep at it. Even if you're just door knocking. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. A little bit of a comparison as to like how things used to be compared to how things are. It's very similar, although the business is changing a lot. We just need to make sure that you're getting a little bit more in people's face. I love the tangibles, everything being so digital that you want people to actually have takeaways. Like people like holding a nice magazine as long as you're using good paper. Don't use a cheap crap because then it will go in the garbage. But use the tangibles, be a little bit more old school with a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah, host the event yourself, like a lot of the community garage sales and things like that. Those are okay, but if you just throw money at an HOA and you're like, yes, we sponsor this homeowners association, here's our $1,000 sponsorship, and you get to be featured as a gold sponsor, same thing at a golf tournament or whatever. It's actually not a whole lot more just to do the event yourself. And then you have complete control of it. Plus you can get sponsors to offset your costs. So it actually doesn't cost you anything at all. And you have complete control of the messaging.
And you get the conversations, and that's the goal, right? Is to have conversations.
Totally. Okay, so here's just like some numbers, just for fun. Okay, and this is when I've got that calculator that I can share afterwards, or you can email it out to everybody afterwards. So let's just say, what does the math actually look like? So let's assume we've got a 500 door farm. Let's assume we've got a $750,000 average sale. Commissions, I'm not suggesting you use this commission, Competition Bureau, if they're listening, or RECA or whatever. Let's just pick a number out of a hat and say that we're looking at about a 2.2% listing commission. And let's just say that you keep about 95%. So maybe you have 5% that goes to your brokerage, or 5% goes to the brokerage or fees or whatever. This is kind of what we're looking at. So year one, you can expect that you're kind of seeing, based on a couple houses, you're going to be in that sort of just under 20 grand, year two, year three. And this is like the real math with the way things are compounding. So your marketing spend, assuming that 500 houses that you're mailing as per the plan, you're doing some community events, you're sponsoring the billboards at the hockey rink, all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty big number. And that actually lines up pretty closely with what our numbers are. So we're like I said, about a 12x. But if you do it effectively, especially on a smaller geo farm, you can see, 13, 15% X. It's pretty cool. So
that's awesome. That's really cool. And have it broken out like that. You're the only guy I've seen break it all down like that. Like a lot of trainers and stuff like that is, Geo Farm, go send this, go send that, spend a year. To have it all broken down and have the numbers in front of you like this is awesome. I haven't seen it like this before.
Totally. Yeah, you bet. So these are some things that I'll leave with you, Ken, and you can kind of circulate them as you see appropriate. I'd open it up to you for any questions, or however you want to sort of handle that, and we can talk a little bit more about it. And
well, I've got one question here, and then we've got Devinder's dumped a question in here too. So if anybody wants to put questions in the messages, or you can hit the Q&A as well in the waffle board, there's a Q&A section. You can hit that and we'll answer out of both. But you mentioned, start with 500 homes in your geo farm. So you've got your 500 homes. It's working really, really well. What is the point? What is that metric you look for before you start scaling up?
I think it's probably just like bandwidth and like how comfortable you are from a budget standpoint, really. Well, and then also probably time and resources. Like if you have the support to be able to take on more, because if you're doing a geo farm and you're dropping the ball with clients, you're not answering phone calls, or you're not able to actually deliver, then you got to slow that down. But if you have capacity to take on more, then take on more. So like I said, I like that 500 sort of number, because you can choose like a couple of very specific postal walks. And I don't know if anybody's used the Canada Post Precision Targeter, but like you can literally say, like, I want this street and this street, and I don't want apartments. I don't want townhouses. I only want houses. So get very, very specific, and then scale up as soon as you see it you think is necessary. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a certain number of transactions that you've done or a certain ROI you're looking for. It's just more or less capacity that you can hold.
I think it's capacity that you can hold. And I also think that opportunity comes with that as well. So, the exciting part about a geo farm is when it starts working, and then you're like, okay, I got a listing. Yeah. Now it's time to market the snot out of that listing. You make that listing look like you've got 10 listings. Mm-hmm. So it's an open house, and you put out 16 signs for your open house. And I'm not kidding. Like I'm being dead serious. Like you put out an obnoxious amount of signs for that open house. It'll give you a super successful open house, and it's free advertising. Like, why would you not do that? And then you're going to get another listing, and then you market the snot out of that one too. And now you have two of them that are running in tandem, and it's like, whew, this person's like, they're killing it in this area. They are the go-to neighborhood realtor. So usually once you have like a little bit of momentum, that could also be a really good time to start scaling up.
Nice. Okay. Devinder jumped in here and asked, geo farming for teams with more than 20 agents, does it work as effectively as with a small boutique team like yours?
I think it depends on the 20 agents that would be on the team. I think that as the team lead, yes, it would, but it just kind of depends on the vibe of the team. Yeah, and that's probably a whole other conversation. That'd actually be a really great webinar for another time. But as long as everyone's kind of like singing the same song and communicating the same value proposition on each one of those appointments, and branding is consistent, because as soon as you have, 20 agents doing things 20 different ways, it's very difficult to keep that momentum with the geo farm. The messaging has to be very consistent in order for it to be effective. So I think it can work as long as your messaging is bang on.
Cool. Couple of things here. Justin asked for the calculator, and we're going to send that out afterwards. Correct? We'll give everybody a link to that. Janice took a bunch of screenshots, but would you share the presentation? Can we? We'll get a copy of the slides for you, Janice. We'll make those available to anybody that was on the call as well. And then Kelly asked a question: do you recommend targeting specific housing types in a geo farm, or should all properties in that area be included, like condos and all that kind of stuff?
I don't like condos personally, because generally speaking, you're not going to pass the blue bin test with mail. That's the issue. Yeah. Like usually that stuff doesn't even make it into those mailboxes, or as they're sorting mail, like you look at any kind of recycling at a condo, an apartment style condo, and it's just flyers everywhere. So I don't like condos personally.
So you would you'd get very niche or niche.
I get very niche. Yeah. They have to have a super box or a mailbox out front.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool. All right. And hang on one second here. So we did that one, another one in here. And then, yeah, we're going to, Mira, we will send out the recording there. I'm going to send out a link probably this afternoon that will, to anybody that was on the webinar, you can get the recording as well. We'll do the whole thing. Right on. Cool. Anybody else have any questions? You can throw them in the Q&A or just in the messages in the chat. That would be great. And we'll cover all those. We'll give you another minute here to throw your questions in. If nobody has any questions, John, anything else you want to say or share or wrap this up? Or
no, I just think this is cool. Like 5 years ago, there's no way that you would, well, there's no way that if I'm being honest, there's no way that I would ever do this. Where like there used to be that whole like secret hoarding thing in the industry, right? Where it's like, I'm not telling you who my printer is. Like, why would I not tell you who? I love my printer. He's a great guy. Like, I want him to do well. I want you guys to do well. There's lots of business. Like, why would we not share that? I just kind of love the way that this whole thing is. The industry is changing, and I just appreciate the opportunity to be on here and chat with you, Ken. So,
no, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing all this stuff. And that's what I've loved so much about being involved in our group, especially with you, is just the sharing and the collaboration, everything that we're able to do. And like everything is available to anybody. There's more than enough business for everybody. Like, could you imagine us saying 5 years ago, yeah, I'll give you my slide deck and go send it out to 100 realtors? Could you imagine us even saying that 5 years ago? It would never have happened.
No way. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. If it's worth having, you got to give it away.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for hopping on today. We really, really appreciate it. We've got a really cool one coming up next month too. So you'll all get an invite to that. And I'm gonna launch that. I'll let you know. I'm also going to send out an invite to everybody that was on this call to our weekly Dynamite Agents meeting. So Dynamite Agents is our group that gets together every week, and we share things about, you know, what's going on in our business. We work through problems. We celebrate some wins. This morning, we had a really great call where we were talking about how can realtors sell their own house, and should they do it? What are the pros and what are the cons of that? So we just go through what's going on in your business, totally free. It's just a community call that we want everybody to jump in on and share their experiences and share their wisdom. And also, you know, if you've got some problems you need help working through, there's lots of people on there that can help you work through it. We'd love for you to be on that call, so you'll get an invite to that too. And John, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you so much. It's great to be working with you. And again, great presentation. Thanks, dude.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Take care.
See ya.